with much ado, here's Trevor Loudon.
Thanks, Phil. Can you give me a bit of a signal when I've got 5 minutes to go?
I'm going to set a timer. I'll call out. Okay.
So thanks so much, Tom, and thanks to Julie for organising this. Can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody hear me down the back all right? You can't. Can everybody hear me down the back okay? Can you understand the southern accent all right? I worry about that. Look, I'm going to tell a couple of stories before I start. I was back in New Zealand recently, where I come from. My dad's 90 years old now, and he was telling me about World War II and how terrified they all were in my country because the Japanese were coming down through the Pacific. And if it hadn't been for the sacrifice of your fathers and uncles and grandfathers who stopped the Japanese at Guadalcanal and Coral Sea and Midway, I might not be here, folks. So it's very personal, and I'm very grateful to the sacrifices made by your families. So thank you. Now, how many refugees from California here tonight? Yeah, okay, only about half of you. I don't know why you would leave California. But here's a story. I love street food, and I got to tell you, brisket, burnt ends are my favorite food, okay? But you also have salad here, and salad's not food. Salad is what food eats, right? Just understand that. But anyway, I was in California. I bought some street food, and the guy said to me, "Hey, you have an accent. Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from New Zealand." He said, "Well, where is that?" So to make it really simple, I said, "Look, it's down in the South Pacific near Australia." He said, "Where Arnold Schwarzenegger comes from." So you can see the importance of an educated public, right? Now tell me, I'm going to talk a little bit about Utah tonight and some of the threats here. And I want to talk about Julie's film, which I think is very important. Now, do you have any public land in Utah?
66%.
It's only 66%. But the federal government lets you use it for the benefit of your people, right? They let you extract energy, they let you mine, they let you, do forestry and ranching. That's all good, right? No, it's not? Well, who knows? Which cabinet secretary oversees the public land in your state? Does anyone know? Secretary of the Interior, right? Now, does anybody know who the current US Secretary of the Interior is? She's a woman called Deb Haaland. She's a Native American. She was a second-term congresswoman from New Mexico. And now she is Secretary of the Interior, overseeing 20% of this country. And nobody's ever heard of her. So how did she get there? Well, there's a little backstory. What was the very first thing that Joe Biden did when he became president? Does anyone remember? The pipeline, remember? Shut down the Keystone Pipeline. 11,000 Americans instantly out of work. But that wasn't the worst of it. See, the reason given was that Native Americans were protesting the pipeline through the Dakotas because it was going through their tribal land. Well, the woman organizing all of those protests is a Caddo Indian from Texas, from Oklahoma, and her name is Judith LeBlanc of the Native Organizers Alliance. She organized, trained it, directed. She was the leader of that protest. Well, Judith LeBlanc also serves on the Central Committee of the Communist Party USA. And the Communist Party USA is completely loyal to the Communist Party of China and also to Putin's Russia, right now in real time. So Judith LeBlanc, after she got the pipeline shut down, mounted a campaign on the Native American reservations, of Nevada and Arizona and Minnesota and New Mexico to get out the vote for Biden-Harris. Big time. She even had a presidential forum in Sioux City, Iowa. And as a reward for this great work, she was allowed to nominate her very close friend, Deb Haaland, for U.S. Secretary of the Interior. And as nobody knew who she was, they really did have to mount a campaign. They had buses, they had Facebook pages, they had Twitter storms, they had a whole bunch of celebrity endorsements. Deb for Interior, Deb for Interior. They had Hanoi Jane Fonda, they had Alyssa Milano, Cher, Mark Ruffalo, Sarah Silverman, Gloria Steinem, all Deb for Interior. And Biden nominated her, and she was selected with 4 Republican Senate votes, including, of course, Mitt Romney of Utah. So now she is Secretary of the Interior. She controls all of the Native American reservations. She controls all of the energy extraction on public lands. And she is shutting down every single energy lease she possibly can. When your country is starved for oil, when Biden has run down your strategic energy reserve by 50%, including selling a whole lot to China, when Biden is begging Iran and Venezuela for oil, Deb Haaland, a Marxist, a communist, put in place by an agent of China, is shutting down every energy lease she can in your country. Do you think Xi Jinping might be happy about this? You think Vladimir Putin might be benefiting from the high price of oil on the world stage because of that? See, this is what happens, folks. You look at the Natural Resource Defense Council, one of the biggest environmental groups in this country. They have offices in Beijing. They are funded by a group directly tied to Russia, and they use legal warfare to shut down every energy project, every new oil field, shut down existing oil fields, shut down fracking everywhere they can, because the war is on your energy. Because if they can shut down your energy, they shut down your economy, and if they shut down your economy, they shut down your military. And the goal is to change the world balance of power in favor of your enemies by destroying your economy and destroying your military. Now, does anybody think... Now, one of the main ways China attacks this country has been, well, there's fentanyl, there's buying your congressman, there's stealing your technology, but there's also biological warfare. You'll notice that all of the states that had the harshest lockdowns in this country over COVID were all the states where the Chinese had the most influence. All the cities, they used their unions and their subservient politicians to shut down the schools, shut down the businesses, shut down the churches to inflict maximum social and economic damage on your country. Now, does anybody think there may be another pandemic looming? Well, the World Health Organization is now taking control and has virtually around the world, they will control the response to the next pandemic. And Biden is trying to sign this country up to that protocol, meaning if we have another health emergency, and that can be almost anything, including guns or transphobia, they can direct your response from the World Health Organization, which is run by Mr. Tedros of Ethiopia, the former leader of Ethiopia's pro-Chinese Communist Party. And the World Health Organization has a behavioral modification unit. And that's as absolutely sinister as it sounds. That's an organization staffed by social psychologists who tailor the messages of the World Health Organization to get you to comply, to get you so scared that you will vaccinate, that you will do what you're told, you will follow quarantine laws, whatever. That unit is headed by Susan Mickey, a leader of the Communist Party of Britain, who is so extreme in the Communist Party of Britain, they used to call her Stalin's nanny. Now, the Chinese communists have a thing, they call it the mass line. And James will talk about the Maoist revolution, wherein I'm sure. But the mass line means that the Chinese Communist Party comes up with an idea and everybody must conform. At one point in the Cultural Revolution, everybody had to kill 10 flies every day. Everybody. Well, you saw what happened to COVID with COVID. Was there ever going to be any talk about vitamin D therapy or hydroxychloroquine or herd immunity or ivermectin? What happened to people who suggested those options? They were shut down, excommunicated, fired, because this was Chinese mass line. It was set by the Communist Party of China, funneled through the World Health Organization and through their subservient people in this country. It was going to be masks, it was going to be lockdowns, and it was going to be vaccinations, and there was going to be no other option. We are subject in this country to mass line politics. Black Lives Matter is a Chinese communist operation. What happens to you if you are a business executive and you put a posting on Facebook saying you don't really like Black Lives Matter? What happens to you? The transgender movement is a Marxist movement. What happens to you if you don't support the transgender movement? Is there any social pressure to conform to that movement? This is what they call mass line politics. We see it in sport. Why do your sportsmen take a knee to Black Lives Matter? Because Nike controls sport. Who controls Nike? The Chinese control Nike. The ESG scores that Marlowe talked about, that is the Chinese way of bringing their social credit scores into our businesses to wreck our economy and get us used to complying. But this would never happen in Utah, right? None of this could possibly happen here. This is a very conservative state. You have got your city council trying to push 15-minute cities in this area. Who invented the term 15-minute cities? There's a man called Carlos Moreno. He's an urban planner based at the Sorbonne in Paris. He used to be a leader of Colombia's Marxist-Leninist terrorist organization, which actually attacked the Colombian parliament one time and resulted in 136 deaths. But his ideas are going to be applied in your city if you don't do something about it. Because 15-minute city sounds great, all the services in 15 minutes. But you go to Oxford, England, where they've implemented it. You can only drive your car out of the city 2 days a week. You cannot drive more than 50 miles. You cannot drive into the centre city without a permit. It's absolute tyranny because, see, this is the world we're heading for. The world you live in is rural communities who support each other, who network together, who go to church together, who help each other when you're in need, and you don't need the big government to look after you. You can do it real good by yourself. But that's not the world these people want. They want everybody in urban areas, stack and pack, vertical integration, where all your services come from the government, where you have no mobility, where you can't just hop in your car and go to a meeting 100 miles away. You can't go and hop in your car and drive down to St. George for a burger. You can't do any of that stuff because you are part of a machine. You are going to get up in your morning, and you're going to have your breakfast of mung beans, and then you're going to bike down to your community business, and you're going to work all day and have indoctrination breaks at lunchtime, then come home and watch 3 hours of indoctrination on TV before you go to bed and start all over again. That is their ideal world, folks. They want you out of the countryside. They don't want you independent. That is in your state now. Because what has happened is you are a magnet for the globalists and you're a magnet for the Chinese. The LDS church is very dominant in the state, and it's got buckets of money. That's a magnet right there. It's got a well-developed infrastructure here. It's got excellent educational facilities. It's got a homogeneous population. It has got a lot of people who really, really are a little bit, well, no, how should I put this? You got some people who use the respectability of the church to gain help to advance themselves. It's the Harry Reid model. Does anybody think that Harry Reid, a Mormon convert, was a real Mormon? You think he did the Mormon church a lot of credit? You think Mitt Romney has really done the church a lot of credit? Some of you may love him, I don't know, but you know. But the point I'm getting at is also you have, in this state, you have the big data center, which is a great magnet for the globalist types. You have also got, the LDS has got massive networks all around the world. And if they can infiltrate the LDS, they can use those networks all around the world and the respectability of the church to further their agenda. And the big bait they are using with the church here, the church elders, to draw them close to China, is the fact that if we build ties to China in this state, we are going to lead the world in opening up and eventually sending missionaries to China. That is the big bait. But what should really happen is the anti-communists who led you for so long, the Ezra Taft Bensons, the Skousen family, all of these people, they would say to you, right now, Ezra Taft Benson would say, if you want to proselytize China, let's bring down the CCP first. And then we can send people to China. Because if you send people to China now, they're going to spy on you. They're going to infiltrate you. They're going to use that bridge to bring their influence even more into your state. So you are a big target. You're the most conservative and patriotic state in the country. People in this state understand the godly nation of the godly roots of this country. They understand that this is the first nation on the planet where man's rights come from God, not the government. They understand the divine inspiration that the founding fathers had, creating the Constitution, creating this great country. That is deep in this state. But that is also where you get great good, you get great evil trying to get inside it and use the respectability of the movement to push their own agenda. And let me say this, because you live in such a great place, because you have such great communities, because you have such great patriotic people, that also does breed a little bit of naivety and a little bit of complacency. And your enemies will take advantage of that. They will take advantage of your better nature. Would you invite the mafia to set up in Salt Lake City? Because you make some money, but look at the corruption they will bring. Well, why would you invite the CCP to have more influence in this state? Because they are worse than the mafia. They're killing 80,000 of your kids every year with fentanyl, folks. They don't care. They're stealing your technology. They're corrupting your politicians. And their goal is to bring down this nation. So this is what I'll say. We're not going to get out of this mess without, I believe, some divine intervention. We need some providence here. When have you ever seen an example where God came down and saved a bunch of cowardly, complacent, gutless wimps? Are there any messages like that in the Bible or the Book of Mormon or anything that you know of? It has always been David with his little bit of string and a rock. It has been Gideon's army versus the horde. It's been the American patriots versus the mighty British army. Because this is the thing. This is the thing. We are only going to win if we tell the truth. Telling the truth takes courage. And courage is proof of faith. Courage tells God that you believe, that you have something bigger in your life than your own little life, that you are willing to sacrifice because you know there's a greater good. And that's where we are now, folks, and that's why I urge you to support Julie's project. If you are going to write out a check, put a 0 on it, people, because this is going to have an impact all over the nation. Julie has a unique experience with her time in Russia. She saw the impact of communism on the people and communism on the churches. She sees the parallels in your society right now. We need millions of Americans to wake up. We've seen great movies who have stirred things. We've seen the latest movie by Mickey Will. The Great Awakening, that's reached millions of people. You know, James's work has reached millions of people. He spoke in front of the European Parliament, one of the best speeches I've ever heard. That's touched millions of people. And Julie's going to put this movie out for free. Millions of people are going to see it, and they're going to get fired up, and they're going to get more courageous, and they're going to tell more truth, and God is going to be pleased, folks. And maybe God will be pleased enough if enough people stand up and if enough people are courageous and faithful. Maybe God will say, this nation is worth saving. This nation is worth helping. I think this is a spiritual war. We're in it. We have to name evil and we have to cleave to good. And we have to be brave, and I commend Julie for putting everything on the line. No money, just an act of faith to put a movie out there using her unique experience to reach millions of people. Please support her. Please support her in the name of your kids, in the name of your country, in the name of your God. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Wow. Standing ovation is in order, for sure. Thank you, Mr. Loudon.